Hi there, it's Skyward Shield. Welcome to a new Football Talks. I am joined by Bill. Say hello, Bill.
Hey, hey!
We're past week 10, that's now in the books. But let's recap about what's been going on because this week was also pretty hectic, and I will say I officially hate this NFL season. And no, I'm not just being salty because Watson's out. We now lost another great player, possibly for his whole career in Seattle. We lost Richard Sherman. He tore his Achilles, and this was after hearing reports that he might not have been able to play on that Thursday night game because of his Achilles. He ruptured his Achilles, and now he is out for the rest of the season, possibly be done with the Seahawks.
Oh
But
yeah, definitely.
I officially hate this season because every superstar is dropping left and right. At this rate, it's a matter of placing bets on who's going to get injured next, who's going to get the big injury that ruins their season, because that seems more likely than getting a full week slate of great games, because there are some stinkers in this one and some emotional wins as well. But
And
I'll get to some of those later. For now, Bill, let's talk about the Pain Bowl, the Pain Franchise Bowl. It doesn't get more painful than these two, never even reaching a Super Bowl. One team went 0 and 16, the other 1 and 15. Who comes out? And surprise, surprise, this game was actually close for most of the game, but one team had the real contender had to come up and show that they are a little for real. But even so, Bill, the Lions were actually choking this game away to the Browns, and that is unacceptable considering this team is supposedly a playoff contender.
well, to be fair, and we'll be brutally fair, you know, the Cleveland Browns had their best game of the year against the Lions, which has been the theme of the year for the Lions this year. Every team that we play typically gives us our run for our money. But here's the issue is, the Cleveland Browns themselves came out with intensity, came out with actual drive. They didn't want to lose anymore. They came out, played a great game, and still lost. And the issue being, with the Lions, they were playing great defense on the running backs t- most of the game. There was a few runs by Isaiah Crowell. There was a bunch, but the person that kept killing the Lions the entire game was the mobile quarterback, DeShone Kizer. He kept running for first downs. They would be in third and long. He would run for a first down. They were in fourth and fours consistently through the game, and he kept running the football, getting first down, getting the first down. DeShone Kizer was the reason the Cleveland Browns were in the game at all for most of the game. And see, that's the sort of thing that you can take. See, if he didn't have that game against the Lions, and you sat him out and you started Kessler or Hogan or someone, you don't have that progress being built. So the Cleveland Browns came out, played a really effective game against the Lions defense, and really, DeShone Kizer was the main catalyst for that. For that, but he had a lot of mistakes as well, and we'll get into a few of those in a little bit. Uh, what I wanted to say about the Lions is the Lions played down to the Cleveland Browns level, and that sort of thing is not acceptable for a a hopeful playoff team. Uh, they played down to certain teams' levels like Cleveland, etc. So basically, we keep playing down to teams' levels, and that that can't that can't happen in the second half of the season because we're playing a bunch of teams that are not super good. So you can't play to their level. You got to put your foot down on these teams and make sure that you know the the Chicago's of the world can't win games. All right, and now what I want to say was the best part of the game is the Detroit offense. The Detroit offense played with heart. They played with fire. Eric Ebron actually caught footballs. Matthew Stafford was carrying the team. Golden Tate was carrying the team. The running game was effective. They had Abdullah again to the end zone. And we have one defensive turnover that led to a touchdown. The only defensive touchdown the entire week of week 10 was a Detroit Lions defensive touchdown. So
That one was not easy.
he ripped it out of the Cleveland Browns guy's hand. So it was overall a pretty good team effort. They have to fix some things, but that's the good thing about playing a team like Cleveland. You can sort of see what doesn't work and what you need to fix. Because again, you're going to run into another team with a young quarterback in Trubisky, a decent to great running back in Jordan Howard, and young explosive wide receivers. So, it was a good learning experience for the Lions.
Yeah, some highlights for me. Zettel is pretty good. He's a pretty good defensive lineman.
Yeah, he's starting to develop, and that's a good thing. The bad thing is
Kenny Galladay came back too.
Yeah.
2 back-to-back good catches from Stafford
Yep.
to him, and I mean he didn't do anything else aside from that. But I'm just glad he's back in there because that's the whiteout element that he can pull off.
Right, and he's a big target. That's another thing that they're missing. My major thing is what really is hurting the Lions defense right now is that they don't have Ezekiel Ansah playing at a high level because of numerous injuries. And if he can come back and he can be healthy, that defense is a legit nasty top 10 defense. Because you have Zettel on one side, you have Ezekiel Ansah on another, and you have a good center in Haloti Ngata and what's his face? I forget his name, but you have a decent front four. You have a young guy in Jared Davis that's going to get better. So you have pieces, but if Ansah's there, he's the engine that runs that defense. He's the piece that would really be a disruptive force. And then who are you gonna stop? Ezekiel? Who are you gonna stop? Or Zettel? Zettel's been coming on lately.
Yeah. Oh, but Bill, you mentioned earlier Ebron. I can't believe it. Ebron caught a touchdown pass, and a pretty good one. I mean, he was wide open, so if he dropped that somehow, he would not live that one down. Finally, and I could tell he was just showboating in front of the crowd. It's like, there you go, I got what you wanted. Are you happy now? I say good. You needed to, because that would have been incredibly embarrassing to drop that. You were wide open. Good on him. I need to see him do more of that. But Bill, my player of the game for this week from them, for the Lions at least, was I was gonna go with Golden Tate because he's just unreal. He's playing unreal right now, even though it's so under the radar, underneath players like Antonio Brown, and I would want to say AJ Green a bit. They're those star players taking all of the limelight, even if they're not doing much. Golden Tate to me has become one of the most productive wide receivers this year. And I would have said Hopkins too, but after Watson is now out, yeah, there's no hope for Hopkins and Fuller.
Right.
But anything else to note on this game, Bill, or can we move on?
Well, there was one idiotic, stupid play that really sums up the Cleveland Browns. And it occurred at the end of the first half when the Cleveland Browns were on the Detroit 3-yard line with 15 seconds left to go and no timeout. And what do the Browns do? Quarterback sneak from the 3-yard line, trying to get into the end zone. And it gets stuffed and time runs out. The Cleveland media was screaming about, the Lions player couldn't get back over and it should have been delay a game. I don't see it that way because the Lions player was trying to get up and he was just unable to. But Otherwise, don't run a QB sneak with 15 seconds left. I heard some
And you're not even
reports.
on the goal line. That's the
Exactly.
worst part. I mean, sure, you could even if you successfully reached out. I'm pretty sure his arm length, for one arm at least, doesn't span 2 yards.
Right. And the other thing is I've heard reports that it was a Deshaun Kaiser audible into that play, and that's the why you saw the reactions of Duke Johnson throwing his helmet on the ground in frustration. Is that the rookie quarterback audibled into a quarterback sneak, and that's taking the good with the bad. There was good Deshaun Kaiser throwing and running all over the place and having a generally good game. And then he had that one boneheaded play that really cost the Browns in terms of um, points, etc. They could have had even a field goal in that position, and the game could have turned out a little bit different. So you take the good with the bad. Deshaun Kaiser is learning. He's not Deshaun Watson's style, but he was a young quarterback that needs to learn to play the pro
Oh,
game.
he better make a strong case because Bill, it's looking like they are going to have the top pick, very likely now. But not only that, they may very well have another top 5 pick if the Texans keep tanking. Which, Bill, I'm ready to move on because speaking of the tank, the Texans tank is real, and the worst part is they don't have a first or second round pick. And I know some people are like, oh, but Josh, you might have a top third round pick. That's sweet and all. That might be good, but that doesn't matter much. The Texans should be trying to salvage their season, not just get in the playoffs, but don't give the Browns a high draft pick. Don't give them a high draft pick. But if my calculations are right, it looks like they're well on their way to 5-11, 6-10 at best.
Right.
And considering how bad some of these teams are, you might actually 6-10 might be enough to land you a top 8 pick.
Very possible.
So have fun with that. But the Texans, for the first half, didn't do that bad, I would say. They actually kept the game close, but what does Tom Savage do in the end zone and in the red zone under the 2-minute warning? Throws an interception, a costly interception, and let me tell you, he could have had more on his charts, on his stats. So much so, I'm pretty sure he would have been taken out of the game. There was a pick six that was called back. There was I know there was a couple interceptions that were dropped that were on the Rams, but the Rams offense was getting a beat down by the Texans in the beginning. They were being contained. They couldn't do much. They had to settle for field goals. But what are the Rams? What's so special about this Rams offense? They have moments where they just burst out and put a lot of points on the board. They come out of nowhere.
Right.
And that's what happened. I'm not gonna fault the Texans defense so much for this one because it was a similar situation like with the Colts game. The defense gave everything they had, but the offense could not do anything in their to make up for it. They didn't give them a break. They didn't do anything like that, and as a result, the Texans defense got depleted.
Right.
And especially the one play that really encapsulated that was the Robert Woods 94-yard touchdown pass, because that to me perfectly encapsulated just how, despite how everything they've given, sooner or later the levees would break and the points would just flood in, and that's what happened. This game could have been worse, mind you. Remember, like the pick six called back and some other interceptions that didn't come their way. Imagine if those happened. You might have seen a 50-burger once again from the Rams.
Very possible. I mean, the Rams were in that second half having their way with the Texans defense. And a lot of credit to the Texans defense in the first half of that game. I think just they went into halftime, they made some adjustments, and the Texans had to play a perfect game the entire way to even have this be close. and Savage just didn't play perfectly. And you just need him to play almost perfect. I mean, that defense is so banged up, and they were losing more pieces of that defense as the game was going on. That was the other issue. I mean, legitimately, they could have Brian Cushing coming back sooner or later, and he might be their best player on defense. After this, so they were in a lot of trouble as it was, and then Tom Savage playing not perfectly, it spiraled out of control.
This is where I really feel bad. For 2 years ago, when the Texans were tanking a bit, but then really rebounded, I was thinking just keep tanking and draft Jared Goff. Draft Jared Goff because he's pretty damn good. And now look, people were doubting him, and I said no, just give him another year. I liked what I saw when he came out of SoCal. And now he's got an innovative, young coach guiding him, and that team has never looked better.
Right.
The Rams. Here's a fun little stat, Bill. The Rams' offense is very much as effective as the greatest show on turf.
Which is scary, because
you might be seeing the greatest show on turf, Act 2, as I will call it.
Right.
I've coined that term, NFL. Don't you steal it from me without my consent.
I mean,
That's my term. Greatest show on turf, Act 2. You heard it here first, everybody. That's what this is.
Act 2 denotes that it's now in Hollywood.
Yeah?
But,
well, now the thing is, it's with a new cast, or if you want to call it the remake. The HD remake, whatever you prefer.
Oh, man.
Or a reimagining of the greatest show on turf.
Jared
And the best
Goff
thing is, those extra little trades throughout the season might have been the thing that put them over the top. Sammy Watkins may not be having the greatest season, but he's doing a lot better here than over there. You have Cooper Kupp doing pretty good. Robert Woods is especially helpful. And of course, Todd Gurley is Todd Gurley. But Jared Goff is by far one of the best quarterbacks in the NFC right now. Everyone wants to give Carson Wentz the MVP award, and I understand why. But to me, I'd much rather go with Jared Goff. I'm not just saying that because I liked him coming out of college, but considering he has to work with a little less, I think it's even more special for him to do this. And that team, and I know he's got a great defense too. They both do. Both teams have a great defense to complement them on the other side. But right now, the Rams to me look like one of the best teams in the NFC, and there's only one other team I think that comes close to them, despite if I don't count records.
I mean,
but what, Bill?
I mean, the Rams themselves, as they are constituted, are a team on the rise and are going to be good for the next 3 to 4 years.
Yeah. As for the Texans, without Watson, there is no hope. There is no. I mean, some would say draft or sign Kaepernick, but what good is it right now? You can't get him and do it now. And even if you do, how many games do you expect him to win? Do you honestly believe, say, even if you got him now and he comes in, say, week 12, you mean to tell me that he can win against these teams? And I'll give you the schedule just to dismiss this, because Kaepernick, in my opinion, is a bit overrated as a player now. Until I see improvements, which I'm not going to go in believing that. So you mean to tell me that he'll do well at Baltimore on Monday Night Football, then go beat Tennessee, then beat the 49ers, then go try and beat Saxonville, as they still won't drop that damn title, and it's pretentious. And that's at Jacksonville, by the way. Beat the Steelers, whose pass rush is no slouch, despite what that score would tell you, and then go to Indy. I know some of those games are winnable, but I have bad news for you. If you're lucky, you might win against the 49ers, and that's about it. Maybe Pittsburgh if they want to derp again and like they did this week, which is possible, but you don't want to go in believing that, because if you go in assuming the worst, you might be in for a surprise in that case.
Right. I mean,
I'm not saying Kaepernick's the worst quarterback, but I just think after what I saw last time, I need to see improvements. And I'm not going to go assume that this guy's going to come out and play like he did from the Super Bowl, like in his Super Bowl run, because he hasn't been on the field in so long. He is no doubt rusty.
And I'll be brutally honest, the issue really wasn't the issue right now for Houston isn't the offense per se, it's the defense not being able to stop anyone and the offense needing to score a lot of points just to keep up with the other teams. That's the issue.
But with the quarterback we have, it's impossible.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not letting Tom Savage off the hook here because he played pathetically.
To be honest, I'm starting to think they should have kept Brandon Weeden.
I mean, I would say Brandon Weeden would be a better quarterback than Tom Savage right now.
Well, bad news, he's not with us anymore. I forget who he's with, but he's not here.
I mean, they also had Case Keenum. All Case Keenum did was win for the Houston Texans and throw for a lot of yards. I mean, they had a lot of quarterbacks that they could have kept and had at least a respectable backup. Now, Tom Savage, he was a 6th, 7th round pick. You never know with quarterbacks like that. You get the diamonds in the rough like Tom Brady, etc., etc., and then you get the not so good quarterbacks like
Trevor Siemian.
Trevor Siemian.
Oh, Tom Savage was a 3rd round pick, so to me expectations were at the very least be a solid backup, and right now he's not even playing like that.
Yeah, he's not.
Out of all the games that are coming left, I think they can win 2 of them, and that's against the Cardinals and the 49ers. That's about it. They can't. I don't know if they'll beat any AFC team coming up in their schedule, which is very sad.
They have a legit issue, and their division has two pretty decent teams in it. So, they
I'm not a fan.
I mean, the Houston defense needs to stop somebody and play a pretty respectable game, which they haven't been able to do. And then that offense needs to be almost perfect with Tom Savage, and I don't see that happening either. Tom Savage can't even get the football into the best player on the team's hands, which is freaking DeAndre Hopkins. You got to get into those explosive playmakers' hands to even have a shot right now, and he can't do that.
Yeah, not good at all.
One other issue that also the Texans need to look into is the running game. The running game is, you could use that as sort of a crutch for Savage.
I'm just like, where's Foreman?
Yeah, they're not able to get a running game established either, and that's also hurting Tom Savage because then they can just tee off on him.
Yeah, it's not good. I mean, there's a lot of problems on the offensive line now. You have to fix the line, fix your quarterback, and I just say, where's Foreman? I want D'Onta Foreman to get more snaps because I think that dude is a beast, but they don't want to give him a try. I swear to God, if it's still because of what happened when Bob McNair made a stupid prison comment, I call bullshit, because why punish a player for speaking his mind against his own owner? Sure, he's essentially saying fuck you to your boss, but when your boss basically says that you're a prisoner, I don't think it's out of character to say, hey, that's not nice. That's a terrible thing to say, dude. I don't care if you're my boss, but yeah, anyway, I'm ready to move on because the Texans to me are a dead team, especially when we get to those boring games like Texans-San Francisco. I may be tempted to skip that on the podcast because that is not, especially if the 49ers win, I want that to be done. But anyway, Bill, let's move on to another Texas team because both Texas teams look like disappointments, but at least the Texans can say, we lost our quarterback, but the Cowboys, okay, Bill, I think maybe we can say it, maybe, that it seems Zeke really was the player keeping this team together. Because now, without Zeke, the Cowboys look like a bunch of little kids. They got manhandled. After their first touchdown, they disappeared. They look like the Cowboys a bit for a few seconds, when they got that first touchdown and their only touchdown of the game. But after that, it was just the Falcons turned it up despite losing Devontae Freeman.
Yep.
Tevin Coleman had to step up. He did. The wide receivers just torched the secondary like you expect, and Matt Ryan did Matt Ryan things despite throwing that interception that led to a touchdown. It was all good for Atlanta in the Prolapse Stadium as the Falcons just dominated the Cowboys. I am so glad, Bill, that I ran by you that I switched my pick, because without Zeke, my upset of the week had no hope.
Right.
It was an absolute thrashing, akin to the Texans and Rams game. But the sad thing is the Falcons are not even a true playoff team. I think they're a pseudo playoff team, a faker, a pretender, because they can't. They love to choke, but this time they played a team that just was so disoriented without Zeke and without Tyron Smith that Dak got sacked 6 times by a single player. I forget his first name, but his last name's Claiborne.
Yeah, I don't remember his first name either.
It's Claiborne, but yeah, that's pretty good. 6 sacks. He got $750,000 out of that for his for those incentives.
And here's the other thing: is he tied second place all time in a single game with 6 sacks, and the people that he tied with were O.C. Umenyiora and Derek Thomas. Derek Thomas. You've heard me talk about Derek Thomas and watching Derek Thomas play. Derek Thomas is probably the greatest linebacker I've ever seen play in my life. So, to tie a record like that, or to tie second place with Derek Thomas, because Derek Thomas, guess what, owns the number 1 position with 7 sacks in the game. So he was on another level this game. And more power to him to tie a great O.C. Umenyiora and Derek Thomas.
Surprised they didn't double block this guy at this point. They didn't give him the J.J. Watt treatment.
I mean,
but the funny thing is, this guy is not as talented as them. But it's just, to me, the fact was they put in different tackles to handle him, and they couldn't do it. They may as well have had him covered by a fullback or something, because it wasn't enough.
And I'm gonna give the Dallas Cowboys a pseudo excuse for this, and it goes back to practice time for offensive linemen and the CBA. Again, another offensive lineman that had to come in for an injury couldn't perform his job because he gets no snaps. So that's the issue. That CBA needs to be renegotiated. The Players Association is... It
has to expire, and I don't think it expires until, 2019, 2020?
Yeah. So,
you can't do anything about it until that time comes.
It's legitimately... I know that they want to protect players in practice, but it is killing the game. It is legitimately killing the game. I think part of a lot of the injuries this year, I think, is based off that CBA as well.
Especially on the quarterbacks. Well, except for Watson, because his was a non-contact injury. But what happened to Rodgers? That could have been helpful if his offensive linemen had more snaps to work with.
Yep.
Honestly, I believe that offensive and defensive linemen deserve the most snaps to just keep going at it against each other.
That's the only way.
But again, we have to wait for that to fix itself. We have to wait for time to pass.
Yep.
But again, the Cowboys just did not show up at all. They couldn't do anything. Dak couldn't get any help from his linemen, and really, there's not much else to say. I'm not saying the Falcons are a good team because of this, unless they keep that shit going, which I don't think they will. I believe the Falcons are going to miss the playoffs. That was one of my first bold predictions of the year for this year, and I think it's still on course.
Right.
Because they're going to start playing a few better teams in the coming weeks, so that should be fun. And of course, they still have to play the Saints twice, and I think they're going to get 2 L's for that one.
The Saints are looking a little scary this year.
Oh yeah. Just wait till you see my power rankings because I have a new number 2 team. I
Ooh.
dropped Pittsburgh despite their win
Oh yeah.
because they clearly showed to me you don't deserve that spot anymore.
And I mean, they were playing
Oh, and it's not New England, by the way.
they were playing in Indy and they didn't play well, but
Yeah.
overall, I would say another thing is like I think we mentioned earlier, Sean Lee got injured in this game and he's gonna be out for a little
Hamstring.
while. So
Oh, and by the way, this is once again I want to put it out. You should have drafted T.J. Watt. I know Taco Charlton hasn't. You need to give him more time. You could say that's what you want to tell me, but you really needed a linebacker because Sean Lee is a walking injury, and you still thought, oh, he'll get in healthy. No, that wasn't the case. And considering you also had plus linebackers who were going to be suspended for the first few weeks, sure, it would have been nice to have a young guy who really wants the reps and really wants to have a shot at getting after the quarterback or getting after the running back, whatever. And I like T.J. Watt a lot personally, but okay, I understand your logic. You want to Taco Charlton because his name's funny. But whatever. Anyway, Bill, I'm sick and tired of talking Cowboys because this was an ugly game. If I wouldn't feel so bad if it was close, but it was just as bad as Houston. But at least Houston has the excuse of we lost our quarterback. You just lost a running back and a left tackle, and then you just it's like you took off 2 pieces of the Jenga tower and it all collapsed.
yep.
Zeke is absolutely now, minus quarterbacks, of course, the Jenga piece of the offense.
I mean,
Now I think I understand the argument when somebody said Alfred Morris was actually not good enough.
and
But
one last thing I want to mention, just think if Tony Romo was still playing for the Dallas Cowboys, he would have been injured in this game because he didn't have the escapability. Dak Prescott was running for his life the entire game.
yeah, but I'm just sick and tired of talking about these Texas teams. Wash my hands because this is just filthy, filthy. Ugh. I'm ready to put both Texas teams in the trash where they belong because these teams are trashy right now. Without Zeke, the Cowboys are a clear pretender. At least with Zeke, he can be a little competitive. But without Deshaun Watson and without J.J. and Whitney Merciless, the Texans are scrubs. They're not even pretenders. They're just terrible. They are no better than some of the bottom tier teams that you would see on multiple power rankings across the world or across the country.
Right.
But anyway, let's move on to an actual Super Bowl contender because what else is new? New England is back. All that talk saying, oh, they might lose more games, Josh. They might, not get the first seed. It's looking that way. I mean, unless the Steelers actually get their act together and beat them when that game comes, I don't know if the Patriots are going to lose any more games because right now, if they keep that performance up, where all aspects of the game was incredible, watch out. Dion Lewis had a kickoff return for a touchdown, 104 yards.
Yep.
And not only that, a blocked punt. It was just a blocked punt. The punter landed on the ball, and that's where it ended. But you had that. You had the running backs do incredible. I think they were the only ones who got touchdowns in this game.
I think so. Yep.
Rex Burkhead is still a beast. James White's pretty good. And yeah, what else is new? The Throne of Ease is still very cozy today, warm and cozy as the winter approaches and all the scrubs freeze away in the cold. But not even Mile High's cold weather or cold climate can stop the red hot Patriots.
Yeah.
Because right now, Bill, the Patriots are perhaps the only good team that you don't need to worry about again coming out of the AFC. Whereas the NFC is just a clusterfuck of monster teams on the really close, about to go to war.
Yeah, I mean, overall, if you look at New England, what was the thing we were all going crazy about? Oh, their defense is playing so terrible. Their defense got fixed by Bill Belichick and that defensive coaching staff, and they got beat apart for the first 4 or 5 games this season, and now they're starting to put it together now. They're starting to put it together. You know, they put all their pieces together. They're starting to figure out their roles, and they're starting to hold teams down. Like Denver, they held them down. They didn't allow them to get really rolling in that game. Uh, there was still a lot of passing yards and a lot of yards that New England gave up, but they're getting better weekly, and that is the scary thing, because if they continue to get better weekly, that special teams unit continues to play like it's been playing, especially last week, and that offense starts establishing a running game. Look out, because the Patriots offense will become nearly unstoppable if they start establishing a running game.
Yeah. I'm really sold on the Patriots now because that offense looked this is what they wanted. This is what they've been waiting for. And they finally got it. They finally reached that peak offensive capability. Dwayne Allen had a few good plays. Martellus Bennett, who I don't think we talk about him being taken by the Patriots?
No, we did not. He got...
Yeah, so let's discuss the Martellus Bennett situation then. So, the Packers let him go, and Martellus Bennett ripped the doctor from there because they were having him play under a torn rotator cuff, something like that. And he wanted out, so he got out. And the Packers are going to try and take a lot of the money back that he got for being signed, his signing bonus. They're trying to take that away, especially because he shit-talked their doctor. Which, Bill, I normally would care, but you know what? They try to tell him, hey, play through this injury.
Right.
And no, he didn't want to do it. I mean, the weird thing is now he's playing for New England, which, even then I say, hey, I thought you wanted to rest a bit. But whatever.
I mean...
So, now he's in New England, because why the Patriots could use someone, because Dwayne Allen wasn't doing anything. Mind you, he caught a really good pass this week, but now you have a trifecta of solid running, you have 2 solid tight ends, and then, of course, you have Gronk. There is no term for him. He's just Gronk.
Right. He's just a
And
monster.
now the tight ends are looking to be monsters. Sure, you may not have the flashiest wide receiver core. You may not have that wide receiver core like the Steelers have with Antonio Brown and Juju Smith, who looks like my rookie of the year on offense, a possible candidate. But
right.
Even so, your tight ends are gonna draw attention. The running backs are coming out of the backfield are gonna draw attention. But Bill, everything is clicking for the Patriots, and wouldn't it be sad for all these NFC teams who look hot to just one of them? Of course, one can only survive. Make it to the Super Bowl just to get their hopes crushed by the Patriots, the dynasty killers, once again. What else is new? That's what it feels like this news is coming down to.
Right. To be fair, you know, the AFC is just a bunch of teams that are very similar. They all have a very similar flaw with them, and that's their defense. Their defenses, a lot of the defenses in the AFC are hurt. I mean, if you look at Kansas City's defense, that's hurt. Denver's defense is getting picked apart.
I think they just choked.
Yeah, they're getting picked apart recently, and I think that has more to do with a terrible offense. And I mean, look at Pittsburgh's defense. Pittsburgh's defense is respectable, but you have to deal with Ben Roethlisberger, who cannot play on the road right now. He is a legitimate liability on the road.
That's why I say if he gets home field advantage, he'll win, but then he'll lose in the Super Bowl, because why? It's not in Pittsburgh.
Right. I mean, you know, I think the Patriots have a good shot at beating Ben Roethlisberger's led team, because they will have everything figured out, ready and raring to go. They're done double cover Antonio Brown, and they're done try to take away Le'Veon Bell. So, I mean, if you look at you know, New England, how it's presently constituted, they are set up in so many different ways to win a
Remember, Bill,
title.
let's not forget, the only reasons the Steelers went to the Super Bowl those 2 years is because they never ran into the Patriots. The teams like Baltimore took them out for them.
Right.
They could not because Baltimore was one of the few teams in the playoffs who could handle the Patriots. But Pittsburgh, they could never beat them. Even when they had home field advantage, they still lost the games to New England. So if they want a chance, they need to be at home. They need to beat them at home on Sunday Night Football when that comes around later. And yeah, not a good. Not it's it, the Patriots looking like once again they're gonna finish 13-3, 14-2. And yeah, nothing's new. After that, everyone had their hopes up with the Chiefs, but now the Chiefs are just coming back down to earth. I mean, they could still regain that form, but that defense just is not performing like it was originally.
Right. I mean, and so is the offense. The offense is not performing
It's cooled
like it
down.
did.
The Kareem Hunt hype train is over.
Yeah. I
Remember,
would
I
say
think
so.
people need to realize he wasn't one of the top round draft picks. I mean, I'll take him over Christian McCaffrey if you ask me, because I think Christian McCaffrey was way overrated. But
I mean,
even so, they're just nothing. It doesn't feel right for teams like the Chiefs and the Steelers, and while as the Patriots are getting their act together.
I would say it's unfair to Christian McCaffrey because the Panthers aren't putting him in a position to succeed. They keep bringing him in on third down and trying to run the football with him. And I would say with McCaffrey, the offensive line's not doing their job, and they have no weapons.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they
Whereas
did get rid of Kelvin Benjamin, who's might do well with the Bills, but we'll have to wait and see
whereas
on that.
Kansas City has Tyreek Hill. They have some legit threats. Kelsey, they have some legit threats on the field. So Kareem Hunt can get a little space and go
Yet
off.
they seem to not want to get in the end zone.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Either
So
way. So what else? What's next for New England, Bill? Because now they just need to have their. To me, they just need to have their defense keep playing better
yep,
consistently.
they need to progress each week on defense. And the good thing about them is they get a few more tests. They get Oakland, they get Pittsburgh. They can test themselves against
And Buffalo.
against other decent offenses that bring a different dynamic. Like Michael Crabtree, Amari Cooper in this New England game, or
Antonio Brown
Derek
and
Carr,
Juju.
Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Juju Schuster-Smith, and then you get Buffalo, who's a whole different dynamic with Tyrod Taylor, Charles
And you get
Clay,
to play Kelvin Benjamin again.
Kelvin.
3 times.
Yep.
This will make. They would make it 2 and 3.
They have a lot of chances to sort of hone their skills as the season goes on and get better per week.
Remember when people were all thinking, "Oh, the Bills and Jets might actually take the division crown away from the Patriots." Yeah, how was that? How are you feeling about that now?
Nope.
Bill, let's discuss the other games from last week before we get to the picks, because I feel like there's not much else to address with the Patriots, because aside from they did their job, they played amazing, they put a lot of points, and yeah. So Bill, the first game, Bill, that I want to talk to you about, the Bills have failed me. The Saints just utterly dismantled their entire team. They broke them down into pieces and proceeded to bombard each and every one as the Saints just blew out the Bills. I think the Bills only put up 10 points to the Saints 47. And here's the bigger fun fact: the Saints didn't even have a throwing touchdown. 6 rushing touchdowns, including one from Drew Brees himself, which is a rare sight for him.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, the Buffalo Bills, I think just came in way overmatched, and the Saints are starting to find.
I think the Bills just laid an egg. I mean, come on, you're at home. You are just as dangerous at home as the Saints are, and then you didn't even show up.
I, I mean,
They didn't do anything.
and one of the things is that's a young defense. The other thing is the Saints have stumbled into a dual-headed running back monster in Kamara and Ingram. So, I mean, it's difficult to say what happened. I think it's just a case of a young defense going against a former MVP and Super Bowl MVP. I mean, that's the issue. Great quarterbacks like Breeze and Brady, pick them apart.
Yeah. Next game I want to mention. So, Bill, you remember how the Steelers were just they barely won. They were lucky to have some things go their way. But why? Why do you keep playing to the worst teams? They are 7-14 in the pit against when they are on the road playing under 500 AFC teams.
Right.
That is a horrible stat.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Why? You should not be that bad. Do you know how often you would be in the playoffs or better playoff positions if you won at least half of those other games that you lost?
Right. I mean,
it is. I mean, the most iconic one was them going into New York to play the Jets, and everyone's like, "Oh, the Steelers got this. They're gonna blow them out." Even I thought that, and then they lay the biggest egg of the year, and that's led to their spiraling downfall to barely squeak into the playoffs just to get eliminated by Baltimore, their arch rival.
I'm just gonna be honest. I think Ben Roethlisberger is the problem, and they need to draft the quarterback badly.
Yeah, until they think they're done with him. Draft a quarterback, groom him like akin to Aaron Rodgers and
Exactly.
Brett Favre, and when it's time to switch, make the switch.
He is on his last legs. I think a lot of the injuries have taken their toll on him, and I don't think he's the same. He's nowhere near the same player he used to be.
Yeah. Either way, another game to mention: Bengals at the Titans. So, Bill, oh God! So first you had the AJ Green incident where he tried beating the shit out of Jalen Ramsey, but oh man! Oh, the funny thing was I found audio of his interview about that. It was just a simple question, and he went on for like 5 minutes. I'm not exaggerating, by the way, about how he wasn't at fault. First, he's like, "Oh, I wouldn't attack. I would just attack your game. I wouldn't talk about your family, like your kids and your wife." But then it's like, okay, you just leave it at that. It's fine. But then he keeps going on about how he didn't do it. It's like, are you sure you're saying you're innocent? Because the more you talk, the more I wonder if that's all there is to it. But anyway, that's not why we're talking about the Bengals and Titans. Because, oh man, Montez Perfect. I called it. Where I said, "Oh, what would happen?" Like, I'm pretty sure what would happen if Montez Perfect touched a ref. He did. He pushed a ref, and he got ejected. But the funny thing is, no suspension.
Oh.
Even though, considering what he is and how he went off out of the stadium, all gloating in front of the Titans fans and doing the cash money thing that Manziel does.
Yep.
Bitch, don't do that, especially when you're losing and you lost the game anyway. I'd have understood if you were blowing them out like 30-0 at halftime. Go ahead, because it's unlikely you're going to choke on that. But
right.
Come on, man. You were losing the whole way through, and you lost the game anyway. And then here you go, putting all that attitude, and no suspension. Marshawn Lynch does it. Oh, get that guy out. He's not good for our game. But Montez Perfect, who is known to take cheap shots at players, on like trying to bust their knees, get him concussed, on that live television, on prime time, or whatever, and nothing.
Right. I mean, it's just another example. Goodell's a moron. But Vontez Burfict should be suspended, but it's the NFL. No one knows what's a catch anymore. No one knows what a goddamn suspension is anymore.
Next, you'll tell me that we have pregnant wife beaters as the stars of the league. Oh wait, they do. Anyway, so there was that. But the last thing I want to talk about, this one's a little more serious. So, on Sunday, I got one of my upsets of the week right. I got the 49ers beating the Giants, but something happened that day for one of the players by the name of Marquise Goodwin. It's a similar story. I believe I told the story about Deontay Foreman and how he lost his kid while his wife was pregnant. And this was the Texas Tech game from last year. And if you saw that, where UT just dismantled the Red Raiders, and he played, and he was the reason why. He played for his son, that's what he said, and left, and this immediately left the game on his car to go to Texas City to go see his kid. But turns out that he died while he was driving there. And then, now fast forward to today, a somewhat similar situation where Marquise Goodwin finds out hours before the game that their newborn baby boy died due to complications during the pregnancy. And he did what, to me, I would have. There were many other plays of the week that I would call play of the week or players of the week who played amazing, but I give it to this man. It was an 83-yard touchdown from C.J. Beathard, or however the hell you say his name, and after he got into the end zone, he just collapsed on his knees, breaking down, because that touchdown was for his son. And all of his teammates on offense went over there just to hug it out with him and cheer him up, because he lost his son hours before, and then he comes out and play this game. I'm no parent, but I would never wish for any of that to happen, and I certainly can feel his pain coming from here. I've never seen people go through that in real life, and to be honest, I don't think anyone wants to, but my God, I give a lot of credit to Goodwin for what he had to go through there. And it was from that moment on that the 49ers just trounced the Giants. And not only was that a good win for them, because now they won't go winless, but that win had some sentimental and emotional value too.
Yep.
Bill. So Bill, what are your thoughts on what happened?
It's very much indicative of what the NFL should be viewed as, and it is a brotherhood of players, and a lot of families go through a very similar situation as well. It's not only for him, it's also for every single family that has a very similar situation and can identify with that player, and they can see themselves in his shoes, and they know what he's going through, and he knows what they're going through. So it's very much a great moment for football as a whole, as providing someone that knows what it's like, just like Greg Olsen, who lost his kid at like 2 or 3, or just like a lot of other players that there's stories that need to be told, and that's the true stories right there. The players like him.
Yeah, and like I said, I go my best wishes for his family after what they're going through. But
Yep.
I mean, prayers only get you so far. But what else can I do for that at this point? But I'm just glad he got a win for his son. Those 7 points are special to him, and they always will be for him and his family.
Yep.
But if they have another kid in the future, or like try to conceive another child, I hope that one goes well, especially for their other kids' sake. But Bill, with all that in mind, are you ready for the picks?
Indeed I am. All right.
Yeah, I didn't want to get too enthusiastic for that one, because
Right.
that would be a very drastic change of pace.
Oh yeah. So the Thursday night game is the Tennessee Titans at the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay, Pittsburgh should get their crap together. You're at home this time. You can't possibly drop this one again to another AFC South team.
Right. I agree. I think Ben Roethlisberger plays better at home, and they're at home, so I got Pittsburgh. All right, the Sunday games, the 1 o'clock games, the Detroit Lions at the Chicago Bears.
Considering how non-existent Chicago was that game against the Packers without Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to go with Detroit. However, this game's a bit of a trap game because this is one of those games that Detroit should win but has that history of dropping, just like the Browns game, and I'm still a little worried about that. So this is the game you need to absolutely put this one to rest. Between them and the Vikings, it makes more sense to lose to the Vikings than to both them and the Bears.
Right. I got Detroit, rookie quarterback. I just got picked against a rookie quarterback, especially one that's not like Matt Ryan or something. So, I got Detroit. I think it'll be a decent game. Next up, the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Cleveland Browns.
I'll go Jacksonville because I can never pick for the Browns, save for maybe one instance, but this one's I can call a bit of a trap game perhaps. It's only a matter of time before Blake Bortles chokes away a game and it's all his fault. And I wouldn't be surprised if it happens here, but we'll see.
I got Jacksonville. The Browns played a tough Lions secondary. Now they're done playing even tougher Jaguars secondary. Good luck. I got Jacksonville. All right, next up is the Baltimore Ravens at the Green Bay Packers.
I'm going to go with Green Bay simply because they're the home team, and I don't know what team we're getting out of Baltimore, so I'm not taking any chances.
Yep, I'm going Green Bay. Every time I pick Baltimore, they lose, and every time I pick against them, they win. So I'm going to pick Green Bay just in case on the off chance that they actually win. And I'm just hoping that the Ravens win. Next up, the Arizona Cardinals at the Houston Texans.
This is Andre Johnson night, and, well, should be an emotional game because now you're going to see Andre Johnson and Larry Fitzgerald in the same room again. A shame they're not playing against each other, though. I'd love to see that one last time, but we're seeing two of the best players, and, well, I think Houston's going to actually win this one.
This is two teams that are very similar, and I think this is going to be a very close game. I've got Arizona going into Houston and just playing a little bit better. It's really a toss-up for me. Next up, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Miami Dolphins.
Just remember, this was the Week 1 game that got pushed to this week due to the Hurricanes, and I'm gonna go with Miami because without Jameis Winston, there's no hope. And the dirty Dolphins, I'm still working on that one. I think that they're just gonna knock out Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yep, the dirty Miami Dolphins with a very dirty team are going to win against Tampa. I don't trust Tampa at all. Next up, the Los Angeles Rams at the Minnesota Vikings.
All right, here it comes, Bill. This is the beginning of the all-out war in the NFC for the top spot, and it begins here. I've got my upset of the week going to the LA Rams. They're going to go into one of the most hostile environments in football and come out with a W, and it's going to be good as it helps my case for Jared Goff for MVP.
And I've got the LA Rams as well. I think the Rams are going to have Todd Gurley's going to have a big game in this game. Next up, the Kansas City Chiefs at the New York Giants.
Okay, this isn't even going to be a contest. I expect the Chiefs to give them an utter thrashing. They need to rebound because now the Patriots are looking to be the division champs or conference champs, and you don't want that to happen.
I got Kansas City crushing the Giants. Kansas City's put up 50 on them. Next up, the Washington football team at the New Orleans Saints.
Okay, here comes another thrashing. I think the Washington football team is going to, or just lay a big egg and not keep up with the Saints. What could be a potential shootout is just going to be a one-sided thrashing.
I got Alvin Kamara going crazy. I got the New Orleans Saints beating Washington. Washington's just not where they were at the beginning of the year. Next up, the Buffalo Bills at the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, still needs work. I'm going to go with the Chargers in this one because I can't trust the Buffalo Bills after what they did laying a big egg at home, and they are not as good on the road, so there's that.
Well, the Bills got embarrassed. They're going to come out and play with a fire to not get embarrassed again. I got Buffalo. All right, next up, the Cincinnati Bengals at the Denver Broncos.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go with I'm thinking of going with Denver on this one just because their defense cannot fuck this one up. The Bengals' offense is just going back to ineptitude, and of course their defense is still. Come on, come on, Brock Osweiler. You got to win at least one game. If there's one game I want you to win, it's this one.
This is legit the hardest game for me to pick this week. I legitimately think that this game is too close. I got Denver, but I just almost flipped a coin for this.
It's just hey, I wouldn't be surprised. We may have a tie game this year from this game, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
I mean, they're both.
I don't know if you know this.
Similar.
Cincinnati has been out of the last couple years that have had ties. The Bengals have been involved in both of them.
Right. Oh man. All right. So next up, the New England Patriots at the Oakland Raiders.
Though it's the Mexico City game, I'm gonna go with New England because just that defense. If the Broncos defense got dismantled like that, just imagine what will happen to the Raiders. They're not going back into the black void or the black hole. They're going to the shadow realm.
I got New England as well. Oakland is in some major trouble in their division.
Don't eat the meat in Mexico or else you'll get in trouble. That's my tip for the players.
Oh, man. And then the Sunday night football game, the Philadelphia Eagles at the Dallas Cowboys.
Ah, man, if only Zeke was here, this would have been my real upset of the week. But no Zeke, that's it. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles drop one. I think they're due for a loss, but the Cowboys just, I'm going Philly, and I hate it.
I got Wentz going crazy, Ajayi going crazy. I got the Eagles winning in a blowout. And then the Monday night game, the Atlanta Falcons at the Seattle Seahawks.
I'm going to go with Seattle, even though they lost Richard Sherman. I still don't trust Atlanta on the road.
And I'm going to go the other way. I trust Atlanta now more than I trust Seattle's defense. They're missing a couple secondary pieces. They traded away another piece, so they legitimately only have one secondary piece left. And it's
if you're talking about Jeremy Lane, he never left because of he failed the physical, so he's still there.
Oh, okay.
Your good friend Fajita was very upset about that. It's like, why are you mad? You got a 5th round pick out of us too, but now we have your 2nd and 3rd round pick, so I'll take that.
But so I got still the Atlanta Falcons, even with Jeremy Lane. I just Seattle. I don't know.
But Bill, I just realized something. Next week we're getting the Thanksgiving games.
Thanksgiving games. Here's the just in case Thanksgiving special. The 3 Thanksgiving games. The Minnesota Vikings at the Detroit Lions.
This one is the game of the day, the game of Thanksgiving, and it's not even the last game. The last game's a fucking joke, but you know what? I'm going Detroit. This one you might call my upset of the week, and as things stand now, it very much will be. Because the Lions, they need this game if they want to stay in playoff contention or just win the division, because you might need 11 wins to get a playoff spot in the NFC.
This is where the Lions take over control of the division. I got Detroit as well. All right, the 4:30 game, the Los Angeles Chargers at the Dallas Cowboys.
I'm going Dallas, but I reserve my right to change my pick based on how the Chargers do this week and how the Cowboys do this week.
I got the Los Angeles Chargers. I think Philip Rivers plays pretty well on Thanksgiving Day for some reason.
See if it happens.
And then the Thanksgiving night game, the New York Giants at the Washington football team.
Something does not feel right about this. The only way you'd make this worse is if you had it be Washington against Kansas City for this game. Then I think the PC police would be all over this. I'm going to go with Washington, although I wouldn't be surprised if they choke this one to the Giants.
Well, I've got Washington as well, and they're going to stomp them.
So yeah, looks like the Lions, well, for me the Lions, we both have the Lions in Washington at least, getting some good turkey.
Yeah, I got the good, Chargers.
Yeah, I say good because they win.
I'm gonna reserve my right to change it after this week. So.
Of course. But oh man, for once I'm excited for Thanksgiving, only because of the games, but that's it. That's how I've always been. Thanksgiving is my least favorite holiday of the year.
Oh.
I'm more of a Christmas guy. Actually, no, that's a lie. Halloween's the one I hate the most.
Oh.
Because the internet is just way too into it. Look at how spoopy I am, guys.
Oh jeez.
Oh, you think you're cute by saying it so wrong? Okay. Anyway, that'll do it for this week. We will see you guys in preparation for the Thanksgiving week.